Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chai, Chat, and Community. I'm Saleha Singh, and this is the first podcast of 2026. Today, we are talking about getting children ready to go back to school, and we'll start from daycare to high school. With the school year just around the corner, many families are getting ready for children to return to daycare, kinder, primary, or high school. For some kids, it's really exciting. But for others and for parents, it can bring a lot of worries. Will my child settle in? Will they make friends? Are they sleeping and eating well enough? And what happens if they are feeling anxious or overwhelmed? Today, we are talking about how families can prepare for return to school from toddlers starting daycare for the first time to teenagers back to secondary school. We'll cover common concerns like anxiety, friendships, healthy routines, and how parents can support their children through this transition without putting too much pressure on themselves or their kids. To help guide us, I'm joined by Dr. Amita Sarkar, a very well-known psychologist, who will share practical advice, reassurance, and simple strategies that families from all backgrounds can use in the weeks ahead. Thank you so much for joining me, Amita. You always come to my help. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saleha. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Glad to join you today.
Thank you. So, as the school gates open, parents always feel a mix of relief, that long 2 months of summer holidays and intense worry. What is the baseline level of stress we should expect for families this week?
Well, to begin with, if we say the stress levels will be high, then how it was during the school holidays for two reasons. One is holiday is the time to rewind, relax, have fun, no routines, no early mornings. And also, the second part of it is starting a new term at school also brings its own share of stress and worries to the children, and that is also shared by the parents directly and indirectly. So it's going to be, usual than higher level of stress, but again, it depends how a family is preparing for the next year school ahead. Some of them might be just returning from holidays. Some of them might be just having more time locally and not really traveling much, so they had enough time to rest and relax. But the general prescription for this is, in a very gentle way, try to be a little proactive, at least the last week before the school starts. So that's kind of the
Which is this
preparation.
week?
Yeah, which is this week. So, kind of starting back in the preparation of helping your child to talk about it if they are old enough, or if they're like primary and secondary school, to start going back into routines, not too many late nights and cutting down on screen times and things like that. Um, and for the younger ones, again, to start helping them to just feel more calm and relaxed, especially the first timers, the kinders, the year ones, to really feel, let them feel more relaxed and connected with mom and dad. So when they start a new phase of their life, they are not stressed out with something which is big. Practical strategies also work, like just checking your calendars, trying to make sure that either one of the parents is available for start of the year, couple of weeks pickups and drop-offs. Not cram your diary a lot with your work commitments, which can clash with school routines. Practicalities around, uniform and lunches, and starting to think about the transport and so on. So proactive, gentle approach always is a helpful way to deal with the stress.
I was talking to a colleague yesterday, and she said her daughter was having lunch at 3 o'clock, and she's 8 and waking up at midday. So that's what school holidays do, isn't it? I mean, there is no routine and everybody's taking it easy. But anyway, we'll start from the youngest. So we start from toddlers and first time schoolgoers, whether it's daycare or kinder. So for a child who's starting daycare or kinder, we often see tears at the gate. I know my daughter went through this. What actually is happening in the little brains during that separation? And what feelings are completely normal?
Yeah, well, first of all, if your child is tearful and distressed leaving you, I would say, as a psychologist, that it's actually a good sign. It's not a bad thing at all because separation anxiety is a psychological concept. And the normal separation anxiety in a baby in the first year of life usually is between age 6 months to 1 year, and it can peak around 9 months. But after that, there could be phases of separation anxiety with a new event or a new transition, especially when they are younger than age 5 or 6. So certainly for toddlers, age 1 to 3, or even those who are starting kinder at 3, these behaviors are pretty normal. The good news is the daycare educators and the child care staff are very well aware of that, and they are very well trained in helping the parents to deal with it. So it may seem like a challenge to begin with, but it's important to remember that this is a phase that a parent and a baby or toddler has to go through before they can, tolerate that separation. So, to begin with, what we see is most of the kids would take about a couple of weeks, 1 to 2 weeks, to start settling down with the new caregiver, which is at childcare. And I'm talking about the younger ones, younger than kinder, like below age 3, like 1 or 2 year olds. They if they have not been used to having another carer at home, like a grandparent or a childminder or a babysitter, it may be a little difficult for them if they are very much used to just mom and dad or just set of parents. Whereas if you have opportunity before you start a child care, it's always a good idea to give a kind of a trial run to your baby, to leave them with someone you trust and someone the baby can feel comfortable with for a few minutes to few hours and see how that goes. A very typical scenario is for young moms, and we say that you can start, trying that out when your baby is crawling, to just let them crawl safely. Of course, keep the child-proof
Yeah.
area into the next room, and they come back knowing that mom is there and she's not leaving. So there is that sense of constancy of the parent or the caregiver not just vanishing suddenly, but they are going to come back.
Also builds independence, isn't it?
It does build independence, it builds trust and exploration, because as much as attachment is a very important part of human development, exploration is a very important part from very early on, for babies and kids to learn to understand that their caregivers or parents are available when they need them, but they can also safely explore the world around them.
Thank you. So, in the final 48 hours of daycare, you have just told us what practical advice it is, whether they are toddlers, whether they are 9-month-old babies or 5-month-old babies, and a little bit. So, this is for all parents, because as parents, we never stop worrying. You know that, I know that. How long should it take before a parent stops worrying about their child fitting in?
I think first of all, it's important to know that your child is going to love you the most, no matter what, because you are the most important
Until
person.
they hit teenage years.
Well, even then, teenagers have got their own way of showing love in a hateful way, but they are always, the mom and dad have always got a special place in their hearts. 48 hours before, of course, it's important for the parents to really have a check on their own stress levels. If you are not feeling confident, talk to someone, a friend or a family member, who can really help you to, understand that this is a very important phase of your child's life. So parents' anxiety has to be really monitored, and parents should try and stay as calm and relaxed as possible, because I have to say, babies and little kids, they are very good picking
Oh,
the
yes, I know that.
non-verbal
Yes.
language. Yeah, so they can see the sign of stress, and some of the practical things are, when you go there to leave your baby or your toddler, tell them very specifically, okay, mommy is going to be back, or mommy is going to come back after lunch or after you've had snacks, or whatever you want to decide with the
Yeah.
educator. But don't just vanish without saying goodbye, because otherwise your child will be more anxious looking
Yep.
for you all around. And also just keep the greet and leave phase very quick. I know
So
some
no
parents,
long goodbyes.
no long goodbye. Some parents feel they're not confident, they just want to stay,
Yeah.
and for that can prolong the baby or toddler stress even more, because then they start to expect that mommy is going to stay with me for a longer time. Some parents are very good, taking what we say a transitional object or a comfort object. So a teddy bear or a blanket or something
Yep.
that the toddler or baby can connect with in the absence of the parent. That can be a good idea to start with, and also sometime to talk to them. Okay, oh, look at that. There are colors, or there's water, there's other play areas or toys. Distract them there, and then say goodbye and leave. And those things usually, help the child to settle down quickly, even if they cry.
Thank you. So now the important one, because I always think of this because when we moved here, my younger daughter went into primary. So that was such a huge transition.
Yes.
So even for kids returning to the same school, a new level brings a jump in expectations, you know. Why does, say, moving away from grade two to grade three, feel like such a mountain to a child? I know what happened to my daughter.
So when we are talking about uh, kids who are going to primary, um, especially if you think about grade two and threes, there is that invisible shift, as you say, about children moving to a year level, which is in practice we don't realize one, two, three, but from grade one going to grade two and three, the academic levels start to get higher. So there
Yeah.
are more expectations, more complex tasks will be included, such as writing more independently, spellings more challenging readings, things, or even math skills.
So they've
So
suddenly grown up from grade one to grade two.
yes. So up until grade one, it's a very, Montessori kind of
Yeah.
environment where there's a global social, emotional, behavioral development of the child is the focus, and literacy learning is part of it. But then when the more academic years start from two and three, that's where the pressure starts to build up. It's important for parents to remember that your child has got the whole 1 year
Yeah.
to, catch up. So don't be panicky and in a hurry to start pressurizing them about academic part.
And especially us from multicultural backgrounds. I mean, for us, we are so used to rote learning and, you know, putting pressure on a child, asking for tutors. This is a huge thing for a child.
Yes, and a lot of parents, they start creating ideas about holiday
Going to be a doctor.
tuitions and Kumon and things like that. Well, there are teachers and educators and tutors to take care of the academic side of things. As a parent, the biggest teaching you can have for your child is for them to learn how to stay calm.
Yeah.
So, emotional regulation is a very important part of brain development. And I'm saying that with huge confidence, because if your child is not able to regulate emotionally, they are anxious or they are panicky, their focus and concentration will get affected, and that will affect their academics anyway. So, as a parent, if you can become that, that soaking support for them to really say, okay, let's try and let's see how it goes, and keep things open ended, not don't start to uh, set the yardsticks of this is how it has to happen, or you have to do
Yeah.
this and you have to do that, but
I think
just keep it
sometimes we just,
practical.
our expectations, we put it on the child.
Yes.
And this is where I want to talk about how you read the signs, because, you know, when children are 7, 8, you know, they don't know what, they can't say, I am stressed.
Yeah.
So what are the red flags, like, you know, physical pain or mood shifts that primary students, parents should look for? What would you look for?
uh, well, few things to check about anxiety or nervousness, which is more than normal. You might see your child is generally looking very unsettled, so they are maybe not sleeping well, or they are having nightmares, or they come to you at night to say, I can't sleep, or early morning, regressing a little bit, want to get in mom and dad's bed because it's like a
Yeah.
younger children.
But
And
Amita, in our cultures, I mean, children sleeping with parents is normal, isn't it? So what happens in that case?
well, if your child is still sleeping with you, you would know, if they are looking more like a baby and a toddler, and trying to get more of your attention, um, feeling insecure, or trying, crying sometime over small matters, or getting angry or irritable. So you can still monitor if there are mood issues that you see in your child. Eating patterns can be different, and it could be, not wanting to eat versus trying to eat a lot of comfort food. Visible signs of physical discomfort, like sometimes some children say, I've got a headache or I've got
I was
tummy
going
ache.
to ask that. Stomach
Yes.
ache was what we used to do.
Yeah. And it's like translating your distress into a physical symptoms to say, I'm not well, I'm not okay to do this. So, other than taking care of the medical side of things, because you don't want to miss out if your child had a bug during the holiday or anything, is there any infection or physical reason? Emotionally, it's a good idea to, try and sit with the child and ask them how are they feeling about going back to school, giving them a little bit reassurance. Usually schools are pretty good because end of the year they decide which class your child is going to go. So most of the kids know the name of the teacher, and a lot of them would know which friends are going to be in their class or not. Sometimes kids are, these are very huge issues for little ones when their friend is going to be in a different
Yeah.
class next year. So talk to them about how they can still connect with that friend, see them in break times, or having some play dates and things like that. So those kind of supports usually help to understand if child starts to feel little calm about it. Um, I would always say, just don't have high expectations in the first couple of weeks after school starts, because theoretically you might see your child is very happy going back day one, but they also get tired after a holiday.
Yes.
And especially, in Australia, the weather is warm and they suddenly have to, have the whole day at school, walking around and going from one level to another level. And kids walk a lot in school and then they want to play. They may be, not eating as well as they were eating during the holiday. So just give them a couple of weeks to settle down before, you can start worrying whether it's more like a anxiety problem or it was just a normal nervousness going back.
Thank you. Now, the most important one, teenagers and secondary school. So this is going to be a social marathon.
Yeah,
So, secondary school is like a social job as it is an academic one.
yeah,
What makes the start of the year so draining for teenagers' mental health?
yeah. I think one is about the building pressure about the secondary school curriculum, because it starts to get more and more challenging every year, from younger secondary to high schoolers who are eventually going to start with VC subjects. Having the balance between, the holiday um, fun and relaxation and screen time and online chats, to going back to more sustained routine where there's not enough time and they can resent that. Also the fact, some of the young people, some of the teenagers might be feeling stress around, doing some part-time jobs they did during the holiday, and that exposes them to a totally different kind of routine versus going back to school again
Yeah.
can be a little stressful. um, Specific subjects, sometimes academic pressures are very real for high schoolers because they may not be very willing to, deal with one kind of subject or certain teachers. So those issues can be tricky as well for them. And finally, the peer relationships, which is actually
Which is
the
very
topmost on the
important.
agenda. Yeah, because what has happened during the holidays? Are there any, fallouts? Are there any new relationships, new friendships, and all those things start to, play on their minds. So there's a lot to, cover there. But as long as parents are aware about the general framework of how their teenager was doing during the holidays, what could be the possible areas where they might need help, I think it can be worked out eventually between the parent and the young person.
This very, very important, I think, for again our multicultural communities. It's how do you balance independence and how do we support our teenager who's struggling while still respecting their need for privacy and autonomy.
Yeah, that's a very difficult one for, especially if we try to, think about different cultures having different ideas about what independence means for a teenager. I think the basic rule here is as long as they are um, in that age group where the parental supervision is needed, I think parents should be able to do that. But control or punishment approaches don't work here, because they are also, they are also learning the rules of internal regulation. So if you try to push your teenager with a lot of external control, how are they going to learn to regulate themselves once they are adult or young adults? And that is an essential part of parents of teenagers to consider, that they need to have a balance between having rules and boundaries about what is allowed and what's not, versus having a negotiation or a dialogue with a teenager to talk about what is workable for them and why they are setting these boundaries and rules. So certain curfews, again, about what time you have to come back home or
Yeah,
how long you can stay at night. Curfews around, the screen time or having gadgets in your room before bedtime. All those things should be very clearly defined and agreed between the young person and parent, so there is no confusion. And you can always, have a chat about, maybe holiday time was different because you had more time to relax and there was more leniency. But during the school days, we have to, set these boundaries and rules,
of
not
course.
because we
Yeah.
want to punish you, but we want to help you to go back to school next morning fresh and, happy rather than drowsy and groggy. um, Cultural aspects about what is expected in terms of peer relationships, especially, the friendships and dating and relationships, is again very individual for different families. But what I always try to tell the multicultural families is, your child is different. Your child has got dual cultural identities. They are
Absolutely. That
also
is what I was going to ask
Asian.
you. Thank you for touching on that. Yes.
Yeah, they're also Australian and they're also Asian or African or whichever community you come from. And we have to respect that the reality for them is not just what goes on within the four walls in the house and the culture that the family has for generations, but it's also about the transition into mainstream community. Because school is a representative of, multicultural connections for them. And that's why parents have to be realistic, knowing that within their own cultural frameworks they don't have to, act like aliens, because otherwise for the teenager it's very difficult to cope outside, and feel judged by the peers they are interacting with.
Absolutely. And food is one such thing. I remember my daughter never wanted to carry Indian food. She was like sandwiches. I want sandwiches only. And the fear of fitting in and
Yeah.
leading one life at home and leading a totally different life in school with your peers. The food that you carry and not having friends. They are all such big things for teenagers.
And I think we need to respect that, because they
Absolutely.
don't want to look different at that
Yeah.
age. And identity formation in teenage is a very important aspect of developing self-confidence later in life. So there is no point, trying to push your own agenda if your young person is not comfortable with it.
Um, so you've touched on just about everything I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, logistics and parent health. And we don't have help here. So for many of us, we have full-time jobs, and then we have to come in, in between all of that, there is drop off and pick up and taking children to various sports or their various activities over the weekend, and sometimes, and plus the meals, and plus, temper tantrums of children of all ages. And sometimes we do snap. We are humans, we cannot be these super parents. It's impossible. So, and I feel the most important, the time that is most stressful are the mornings. And so what would you suggest one micro habit families can start tomorrow to lower the morning cortisol levels? I love this word. I picked it up from the internet.
It's very
Morning
good.
cortisol levels.
Yeah.
I know what I did for my child, my younger daughter. She had to make lunches for everyone, and she loved it. That was her responsibility.
And that's such a great idea. I was going to say that, helping your young person or children to start taking responsibility
Yeah.
and teaching them life skills through these examples can be a great way to start the new year at school. Because if there is a kind of agenda to say we prepare a few things night before, so we are not rushing in the morning and having alarm set and all the practicalities about calculating the time, how much it might take. It's always a good idea for parents to wake up maybe at least 20 minutes to half an hour before your child wakes up, so you can charge your batteries with a cup of coffee and think through what's going to happen.
Also means that the parents should go to bed on time, isn't it? Yeah.
And thinking about your own routine during the first few weeks when kids go back to school is very important, because parents don't realize that they are soaking in all the stress that the child
Yeah.
is exhibiting in the morning. If there are more than one child in the family, then thinking about according to the age, if the parents can share responsibility about who is taking charge of whom, or the older ones to have some support to the younger ones, and making sure that the timings are clear in their minds, what time they leave, what time they come back. Stressing about these things can only make it difficult, and your child will grow up remembering how angry you were. So I would say, you need to really think about the long term consequences of how we show the stress to our children. And it's not really going to make a huge difference if you're 3 minutes late, but it's going to make a huge difference if your child remembers you in that emotionally dysregulated way every morning.
Yeah.
So we have to be the role model for our children to say it's okay, we can manage, we can learn from our mistakes, we can try and do things better every day.
Thank you. So, if your child is not improving, what is the first port of call? Is it the teacher? Is it the GP? Or is it someone like you, a specialist?
I think having a quick chat with the teacher, because there are well-being officers in school, always available. If the teachers or the mentor can have a conversation with the child, or if it's a younger age group, if the class teacher has certain observations. And certainly, talking to the GP, because the GPs will issue a mental health care plan for seeing someone like me, like a psychologist or a clinical psychologist. And that is the first step to start exploring if your child needs more help than just, trying to think that it will resolve by itself.
And that's true for parents also, isn't it? Sometimes we do get overwhelmed, Amita. It's very easy to say. We also have to look after ourselves to be good role models for our children,
Yeah.
because children pick up on stress. We didn't know that growing up, but now we are so much aware.
Yeah, and we often, these days parents are much clever
Yeah.
than they take a mental health care plan to see a professional about their parenting issues. It's not that they are suffering from a mental health disorder, but it is about, stress and coping around parenting, about job and other things. And to be honest, when we talk about the toddlers and younger kids, often the psychological support to a child is done through sessions with the parents. So
Yeah.
we would be talking to the parents, advising them about parenting skills. Just to say that in Victoria, there is a parenting program, Triple P, which is Positive Parenting Program, PPP, freely available online for parents of children age 18 and younger. And parents should explore those options too, whatever is available talking to friends and families and other parents with the children of same age group is actually a very great practical ideas, because often you get a very practical advice about something that you're struggling with.
So that's your golden nugget.
It is.
That's really good.
It takes the whole village to raise a child, kind of thing. We have to, make use of our community and integrating with our community and having the sense of connection and feeling connected with your community can always, come in so handy when you think about the parenting challenges and struggles.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Bringing up children is no mean task. I mean, we've all been there. We've had our highs and lows and everything else. And for most of our multicultural communities, I see a lot of the expectations we have on our children. What we couldn't do, we then pass it on to them, and that's a huge burden for them. That's a huge burden. And no matter what you say or I say or anybody else says, that's not going to stop. So. But I think we can be kinder to our children and also do ourselves a favor, because here nobody really cares what you do.
No, I think if people just stop for a moment and pause and think about how am I feeling and then communicate with the child, I think that itself can create such a great safe emotional space between really, losing it and really, feeling dysregulated with your child. And that's
That
what
for me is positive parenting.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Thank you so much, Amita. It's
Very
been so
welcome.
wonderful to talk to you after a good year.
Yes.
And to all of you listening today, please be reassured that adjustment takes time, and always trust yourself and your children. And before we finish, I'd like to thank Amita once again for sharing such thoughtful and practical advice with us today. If there's one thing to remember, is that as the school year begins, it's this, that every child settles in their own time. Big feelings, tiredness, or worries are all part of adjustment, isn't it?
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that you or your child are doing anything wrong. It just means that what happens is routine, patience, and letting children know that they're supported and listened to, as Amita, you just suggested. And if you are feeling concerned about your child's well being, it's always to reach out to your GP, to your child's school, or to a very supportive service in your community, or to people like Amita. You can talk to your GP, and you have specialists like Amita all the time. You don't need to manage it alone, Amita. Don't we? We all know that. And thank you so much for listening today. We hope this conversation has helped you feel a little more prepared and a little less worried and tense as the school year begins. The start
Thank
of
you.
school year doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to feel safe, supported, and hopeful. Thank you so much, Amita. It's been so
Thank you.
lovely.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
thank you. Amita, bye. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.